In the dead of night, when the world is hushed and every shadow holds its breath, the faint sound of laughter echoes, a sound that should have long since faded into oblivion. There, beyond the flicker of dying streetlights and the echo of forgotten revelry, lies a carnival of nightmares. Its rusting rides creak like the bones of a long-dead giant, and every dilapidated tent whispers secrets of horror and regret. They say that on the day the carnival shut its gates forever, a tragedy unfolded so ghastly that the very air still trembles with the agony of lost souls. And on moonless nights, if you listen closely, you can hear the phantom laughter, a sound that promises that the carnival's curse is far from over. The derelict fairground sprawled on the outskirts of town like a scar on the landscape, a grim reminder of what once was. Rusting rides, sagging tents, and faded signs loomed against a starless sky. A thick mist slithered over the ground, concealing secrets in its silvery folds. It was here that our group of urban explorers, drawn by a mixture of curiosity and dread, gathered one cold October evening. Leading the charge was Julian, a charismatic vlogger whose magnetic presence had lured his friends into this forbidden place. Julian's voice, low and determined, cut through the oppressive silence as he addressed the group. Tonight, we uncover the truth behind the Phantom Carnival. They say the spirits of those who perished here still linger, waiting for us. As the cameras rolled, the explorers fanned out, their flashlights piercing the gloom. In one corner of the carnival, a carousel, its paint chipped and its music long silenced, suddenly began to spin. The soft creak of its turning horses echoed through the empty corridors, a sound that made even the bravest heart skip a beat. Julian's eyes widened as he recorded the uncanny phenomenon. In that moment, the carnival seemed to awaken, a slumbering giant stirring from a deathly dream. The group reconvened near the entrance of an old, tattered marquee. Inside, amid layers of dust and the smell of decay, they found a diary. It was bound in cracked leather, its pages yellowed and brittle. The diary belonged to a performer known only as Celeste, whose entries detailed the rise and sudden, catastrophic fall of the carnival. Her words were laced with despair and an eerie foreknowledge of doom. She wrote of cursed shows, vengeful spirits, and a ritual performed by the carnival's enigmatic owner, a ritual meant to bind the souls of the dead for eternal fame. As Julian read aloud a particularly chilling passage, the sound of distant laughter, high-pitched and sorrowful, drifted through the building. The group froze, their eyes darting nervously in the darkness. Was it the wind or something far more sinister? The pages trembled in Julian's shaking hands as the diary warned. The phantom will come for those who dare disturb our rest. Night deepened and the temperature plummeted. Determined to document every supernatural occurrence, the explorers pressed on into the heart of the carnival. They discovered a hidden tent behind a collapsed ride, its fabric torn and stained with what looked like old blood. Inside, amid shattered mirrors and broken trinkets, they found relics of a bygone era. Photographs of smiling performers, faded costumes, and more disturbing still, a set of arcane symbols scrawled on the walls. In hushed tones, the group pieced together a story. The carnival owner, a man shrouded in mystery and greed, had once performed a forbidden ritual in a desperate bid for immortality. The spell had backfired, damning the souls of the performers to a perpetual cycle of torment and despair. In return, the carnival itself was cursed, a living, breathing monument to tragedy. And now, on nights like this, the curse was said to manifest in the form of a phantom presence that roamed its grounds. A sudden chill swept through the tent, and the whisper of a disembodied voice filled the air. "Join us forever," the words slithered into their minds, igniting terror. One of the explorers, Lena, clutched her arms as if defending herself from unseen hands. I don't like this," she stuttered, eyes wide with fear. The explorers soon split into pairs to cover more ground. Julian and Lena ventured toward the old funhouse, a crumbling structure of mirrors and shattered dreams, while the others explored a dilapidated midway filled with rusted game booths and empty ticket counters. As Julian and Lena stepped inside the funhouse, The distorted reflections in the broken mirrors began to twist into grotesque shapes. Faces warped into expressions of agony and madness, and for a fleeting moment, Lena swore she saw her own visage melt into a grimace of terror. Outside, strange phenomena escalated. A disembodied voice chanted in an unintelligible language near the carousel, and the sound of clanging metal resonated from the abandoned roller coaster. Suddenly, one of the explorers, Mark, vanished without a trace. His disappearance sent shockwaves through the group. Frantic searches yielded only his dropped flashlight and a smear of dark, viscous liquid that led into a maze of dark corridors. Amid the mounting chaos, a revelation emerged, a twist that would bind the fate of the living to the dead. Mia, a quiet member of the group, revealed a secret that shook everyone to the core. She was a descendant of one of the carnival's original performers, a bloodline cursed to perpetuate the owner's dark ritual. According to an old family legend, her ancestors had been sacrificed to power the carnival's twisted magic, their souls trapped in eternal torment. Mia's trembling confession was met with a mixture of disbelief and horror. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" Julian demanded, his voice echoing in the stillness. Mia's eyes filled with sorrow as she whispered, "I was afraid that it would mark me, that I'd be the key to continuing the curse." The revelation cast a pall over the group. If Mia was indeed the fated one, then the curse might never be broken. It might simply continue, devouring souls one after the other. As midnight approached, the carnival's supernatural presence grew oppressive. The very ground beneath their feet seemed to pulse with dark energy. Shadows shifted in impossible ways, and ghostly figures appeared at the periphery of vision, only to vanish when looked at directly. In the hidden tent, the diary's cryptic instructions hinted at a counter-ritual, a way to break the curse by unbinding the souls that had been trapped for so long. Against their better judgment and fueled by a desperate hope for rescue, the remaining explorers gathered in the center of the carnival grounds. In a circle beneath a sky choked with swirling clouds, they prepared to perform the counter-ritual. Mia, her hands trembling, read aloud from the diary as the others lit candles around them. The words were ancient and filled with a sorrow that seemed to seep into the earth. Then the carnival came alive in a way that defied reason. The once silent rides began to operate on their own. A carousel spun with a ghostly grace, and the sound of distant, mournful music filled the air. The phantom presence revealed itself, a figure draped in tattered finery, its eyes burning with an unholy fire. It advanced slowly, each step measured, as if savoring the agony of those around it. "Join us," it hissed, and its voice was the sound of 1,000 lost souls. The counter-ritual faltered, the incantations breaking into desperate shouts. In the chaos that followed, one explorer was torn away into the darkness, and Mia's eyes rolled back in terror as the phantom reached toward her, as if seeking to claim her very essence. The night descended into utter pandemonium. The boundary between the living and the dead dissolved as spectral performers of a forgotten era emerged, their expressions a blend of longing and fury. The carnival's cursed legacy was laid bare, a cycle of death and rebirth, of hope twisted into eternal damnation. In the ensuing struggle, alliances crumbled and trust became a fragile commodity. Julian, determined to save Mia and break the curse, led a desperate charge into the heart of the Phantom's lair, a decrepit funhouse where reality itself seemed to warp. Inside, the walls dripped with the memories of countless tragedies. The mirrors reflected not their faces but horrifying visages of those who had perished on the cursed grounds. In one particularly grim chamber, Julian found evidence of the ritual's origins, a series of photographs and letters chronicling the carnival owner's descent into madness, his obsession with eternal fame, and the unholy bargain he struck with forces beyond mortal ken. With each revelation, the horror deepened. The Phantom was not merely a spirit of vengeance, it was a manifestation of the owner's hubris, a twisted embodiment of ambition and regret. And now, it had chosen Mia as its vessel to continue its dark legacy. Dawn threatened on the horizon, but the carnival showed no signs of relenting. As the first pale rays of light crept over the ruined midway, Julian and the surviving explorers found themselves in a grim standoff. The Phantom, more terrible than ever, a swirling mass of shadow and malice, towered over them, its voice a chorus of despair. In a final bid for redemption, Julian invoked the counter-ritual with a newfound ferocity. With trembling hands and a heart pounding with terror and resolve, he recited the incantations that might finally sever the cursed bonds. The air crackled with dark energy. Shadows writhed like living things, and the very fabric of reality trembled. The Phantom let out a scream that split the silence, a sound so bone-chilling that even the most hardened skeptic would weep. In that moment, as the carnival's ancient curse teetered on the brink of dissolution, Mia stepped forward. With eyes filled with sorrow and determination, she embraced her cursed heritage, offering herself as the key to breaking the cycle. A blinding flash of light enveloped the group. For an agonizing heartbeat, the carnival was consumed by a tempest of spectral fury. Then, silence, a silence so complete it roared in the ears. The sun's feeble light had barely touched the horizon when I finally left behind that accursed carnival. Months passed, but the memories of that night, of ghostly laughter, of Marcus's vacant eyes, of the Phantom's whispered threats, never left me. Sleep had become a distant memory, and every creak in the dark made my heart leap as if it might burst from my chest. I tried to rebuild my life, convinced that time would dull the horror of that night. But the carnival's curse, it seemed, had etched itself into my very soul. Nightmares plagued me. I would wake in cold sweats, hearing the distant, echoing strains of that eerie carousel music and the soft, haunting voice chanting, "Join us forever." I soon realized that the Phantom's reach extended far beyond those cursed grounds. It had followed me home. One autumn evening, as I sat in a small, cramped apartment trying to piece together my shattered sanity, the phone rang. Its shrill cry cut through the silence like a scream in the dark. I hesitated before answering, my hand trembling so violently I feared I'd drop the receiver. "Hello," I managed, voice hoarse. A whisper, soft and chilling, replied, "You haven't forgotten, have you?" It was a voice I knew all too well, Marcus's voice, but laced with something inhuman, a guttural quality that sent shivers down my spine. I slammed the phone down, heart pounding in defiance of the darkness that threatened to consume me. That night, as rain pounded the window panes, I gathered every scrap of evidence I could find from the carnival. I pored over Celeste's diary again, the brittle pages yellowed with age. Her words, full of sorrow and forewarning, now read like a dirge for our souls. It was clear. The carnival had never truly been abandoned. Its legacy of torment had seeped into every corner of our lives. I knew I couldn't escape. To confront the curse, I had to return, not just for closure, but to end the cycle that had claimed Marcus and tormented me since that night. I began to research the carnival's history, scouring old newspapers, local folklore, and even visiting the town's dusty archives. I discovered fragments of a story that painted the carnival as a place of dark rituals, a meeting ground between the living and the damned. It was there, hidden in faded photographs and tattered articles, that I learned of a final performance, a show that had been meant to immortalize the carnival's star performer, Celeste, but instead had unleashed a malevolent force that consumed everyone in its path. Determined to put an end to the nightmare, I contacted a few of the survivors. Among them was Lena, whose eyes still brimmed with terror when she recalled that fateful night. We met in a secluded diner at the edge of town, the clamor of everyday life doing little to mask the palpable fear between us. Lena's voice was barely a whisper as she confided, "I keep seeing her face, that woman from the funhouse, and sometimes I see Marcus, but he's not really there." Her words were a mirror of my own haunted visions. The carnival had imprinted itself onto our minds like an indelible curse. We decided that we had to return to the derelict fairground and, if possible, perform the counter-ritual Celeste had hinted at in her diary. The idea was reckless, and the risk was monumental, But what choice did we have when our lives had become a waking nightmare? The night we returned was oppressively dark. The carnival loomed on the outskirts of town like a malignant specter. Its rusting rides and decaying tents seemed to shudder in the cold, unyielding wind. As we approached, the air grew thick with anticipation, as if the very ground were holding its breath. We entered the fairground cautiously. Every step echoed on cracked pavement, every shadow twisted into monstrous shapes under the weak beam of our flashlights. The once joyful music of the carousel now sounded like a dirge, a slow, mournful melody that spoke of loss and eternal sorrow. In the heart of the carnival, we set up our makeshift altar beneath the old marquee. Lena retrieved Celeste's diary, its pages trembling in her hands as she read aloud the incantations that promised to sever the unholy bond between the living and the dead. The words were ancient, their syllables resonating with a power that made the hairs on our necks stand on end. Then, as if on cue, the ground beneath us began to tremble. A low, unearthly hum rose from the depths, mingling with the whispering wind. The carousel started spinning, slowly at first, then with a maddening urgency, its lights flickering erratically. Shadows gathered at the edges of our circle, translucent figures, their eyes hollow, drifting closer with every passing second. I felt a cold hand graze my arm and I jerked back, my heart pounding in terror. Lena's voice, though determined, betrayed a tremor of fear as she continued the incantation. "Release us, free our souls," she intoned, her words echoing off the crumbling walls. The phantom presence manifested before our eyes, a figure draped in tattered finery, its face a blurred mix of anguish and malevolence. It spoke in a voice that was both alluring and terrifying. "You dare to break the bond. You are but pawns in a game older than time," it hissed, its tone dripping with disdain. As the phantom advanced, our circle of light faltered, the flickering candles sputtering in protest. Lena's eyes locked with mine, those eyes, once filled with quiet resolve, now shimmered with unshed tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I never wanted this curse to continue." In that agonizing moment, I realized that the true horror lay not in the phantom itself, but in the legacy we carried. The carnival had claimed our souls long ago, and no incantation could undo the darkness that had been woven into our very being. The phantom's laughter, cold and unrelenting, filled the air as the ground split open beneath us, revealing the skeletal remains of long-forgotten performers, their faces twisted in eternal torment. The air around us exploded in a cacophony of screams, half real, half imagined, each one a cry from the void. I clutched Lena's hand, feeling her grip tighten as the spectral figures closed in. The phantom extended its hand, and in a flash of ghastly light, it touched Lena's forehead. Her eyes rolled back, and for an agonizing moment she became still, as if caught between worlds. Then, as quickly as it had begun, the tumult subsided. The carousel ground to a halt. The phantom's form dissolved into the night, leaving behind an eerie silence that swallowed our every breath. Lena collapsed into my arms, her tears mingling with the grime of our ordeal. The weight of our failure pressed down on us. Had we, in our desperate attempt, only deepened the curse? I staggered away from the altar, feeling the ghostly echoes of Celeste's tragic words resound in my mind. The Phantom Carnival never dies, the diary had warned, its script blurred by time and terror. And in that moment I understood, we were forever bound to its dark legacy. The curse had not been broken, it had only been awakened anew, hungering for more souls to fuel its eternal performance. As dawn broke over the forsaken fairground, the first pale light revealed the remnants of a nightmare. The carnival was silent, its twisted structures frozen in time. Yet I could feel the presence lingering, a promise that this was only the beginning of our torment. Months later, I still wander, haunted by the carnival's specter. Every night I hear that mournful carousel music and the whisper of disembodied voices promising, "You belong to us." I know now that some curses are unbreakable, that some places hold secrets too terrible for the living. And as I write these words, I wonder, if I were to return, Would the carnival welcome me back with open arms? Or would it finally claim the last piece of my soul? In the depths of my despair, I hear one final, insistent whisper, a promise of inevitable return. And I realize with a terror that chills me to the bone that the Phantom Carnival will forever haunt the edges of my existence. The show, it seems, is never over.